Life has a rhythm we often cannot hear until it echoes in the silence of our struggles. To be broken is not to be defeated. It is to be reshaped, refined, called back to the raw essence of who we are. Setbacks are not endings. They are pauses in the music, rests in the grand symphony that is still unfolding through us. Each disappointment, each fracture in our plans, carries within it the possibility of a new beginning we could never have scripted for ourselves. What feels like loss is often the soil where resilience takes root. What feels like collapse is the hidden architecture of a greater design being built beneath the surface. When you see yourself not as a victim of life, but as a vital note in its eternal melody, you begin to understand. Broken doesn't mean beaten. It means the music of your becoming has only just begun. There's a moment in life that most of us try to outrun, a moment we pray we can avoid. The silence that comes after a fall, you know it. The silence when the plans you built collapse. The silence when the door you thought would open slams shut. The silence when your voice, your effort, your best intentions still aren't enough. And in that silence, it feels like everything is over. But what if it isn't? What if setbacks aren't punishments, but pauses? What if that silence is not the absence of movement, but the very thing preparing you for the next step? Think about music. Every symphony has rests. The pause between notes doesn't destroy the music, it makes it richer. It creates space for what's coming. Maybe life works the same way. Maybe your setbacks are simply sacred pauses. Life catching its breath before the next crescendo. The human mind is quick to label silence as failure. We hate stillness because it feels like we've lost progress. But often, what feels like lost time is not wasted time. In fact, it might be the most important part of your journey. It's in those quiet moments, when everything feels stripped away, that you begin to see yourself for who you truly are. The pause forces you inward, and while it feels unbearable, it's in that inward turning that you find the roots of resilience. Let me tell you something. You will not grow by running endlessly forward. You grow when you learn how to be still inside the storm. You grow when you stop fighting the silence and begin listening to what it's trying to tell you. That breakup, that rejection, that failure you swore would break you. It was never the end, it was a pause. A moment carved into the song of your life to slow you down, to make you pay attention, to prepare you for what only you could carry forward. Think about how seeds grow. You bury them in the dark. You cover them with silence, and for a long time there's nothing to see. But beneath the soil, life is happening. Roots are forming. The seed is transforming. Only later does it push through the surface, and when it does, it's not the same as it was before. It's become something entirely new. That's what setbacks do. They bury us. They place us in silence, but it's not death. It's preparation. We confuse pauses with endings because we're addicted to momentum. We want results now. We want movement always. But life, in its wisdom, knows we aren't ready yet. So it pauses us. It places us in spaces where nothing seems to happen, where our progress feels invisible. But invisible doesn't mean absent. Unseen doesn't mean undone. The pause is where the soul gathers strength. So if you're in a season right now where everything feels still, where it seems like nothing is working, where your effort isn't matching your outcome, don't mistake that pause as failure. Don't label it as defeat. You are not being abandoned. You are being prepared, because here's the truth. No great comeback happens without the pause before it. No symphony soars without the rests. No seed grows without the silence of soil. And no human being becomes whole without walking through seasons where it feels like everything has stopped. The pause is not your ending. It's your invitation. It's life saying, wait, something bigger is unfolding. You're not beaten. You're being reshaped. Trust the silence because the music has not stopped. It is only building to a note you cannot yet hear. So the next time you feel broken, remember, the pause is sacred. And when life pauses you, it is not because you are finished. It is because you are about to begin again. The pause you fear is not your defeat. It is the space where your next chapter is quietly being written. Failure, it's a word that tastes heavy in the mouth, a word we're taught to fear. We hear it and we shrink. We stumble and we label ourselves not good enough, not capable, not worthy. We look at the ruins of what we tried to build and say, that's it, I've failed. But here's the truth. What you call failure might actually be the blueprint of something greater being built in you. Because life does not destroy without creating. It does not tear down without laying a foundation for something new. And sometimes the cracks you see in your life are not evidence of your weakness. They are windows into the hidden architecture of strength that is being formed beneath the surface. Think about it. Every structure needs scaffolding. Every cathedral, every bridge, every monument begins with frames you don't see once it's complete. At first glance, scaffolding looks messy. It doesn't inspire awe. It doesn't look like a masterpiece. But without it, the final design cannot hold. Your failures work the same way. They are the scaffolding, the framework, the hidden beams of strength that will one day hold the weight of your destiny. The problem is, we judge too quickly. We stand in the middle of the construction site of our lives and assume the mess is the end result. We think the rubble is the final picture, but the masterpiece isn't finished yet. The mess is necessary. The beams must go up before the beauty is revealed, and failure, as painful as it is just the scaffolding being put in place. I want you to look back at a time you swore you were broken. That heartbreak you thought would kill you, that opportunity you lost, that dream that didn't go the way you imagined. At the time, it looked like ruin, but now, standing here, you can trace the lines and see how it shaped you, how it gave you depth, how it forced you to grow in directions you never would have chosen on your own. That's the hidden architecture of failure. It builds you in ways success never could. See, success is intoxicating, but it doesn't always transform you. Failure does. Failure strips away illusions. It shows you who you are without the masks, without the applause, without the comfort. And in that stripping down, the strongest parts of you are revealed. You learn what you can endure. You learn what you can rebuild. And most importantly, you learn that you are not as fragile as you once believed. There is a quiet genius in failure, a design too intricate for us to notice in the moment. That job you didn't get, maybe it pushed you toward a path that would unlock your true gift. That relationship that ended, maybe it cleared the space for someone who could truly see you. That dream that collapsed, maybe it humbled you just enough to prepare you for a bigger one. It's not that the pain wasn't real. It was. But pain isn't purposeless. Pain is architectural. It chisels, it strengthens, it rearranges. Just as a sculptor chips away at stone to reveal the figure inside, failure chips away at the parts of us that don't belong, revealing what was always meant to stand. So maybe the question isn't, why did I fail? Maybe the question is, what is this failure building in me that I can't yet see? Because if you can shift your perspective from ruin to blueprint, you stop fearing the fall. You begin to trust that even in the rubble, something sacred is being designed. You see, when a building is under construction, no one drives by and says, "What a disaster." They understand the process. They know the mess is temporary, but in our own lives, we forget that. We judge ourselves in the middle of construction and declare the project ruined, when in truth, we are not ruined, we are rising. So let me remind you, every failure you've faced is not wasted. It is not meaningless. It is not proof that you're broken. It is proof that you are building, that your life is being designed with strength you cannot yet see. And when the scaffolding finally comes down, when the structure stands tall, you'll realize it was never failure at all. It was foundation. What looks like collapse today is often the hidden architecture of the strength you'll stand on tomorrow. When we hear the word resilience, we often think of pushing harder, gritting our teeth, powering through, forcing ourselves to keep moving no matter how heavy the weight feels. And yes, sometimes resilience looks like that. But if we stop there, we miss something deeper. Because true resilience isn't about becoming something new, it's about remembering what was always within you. Think about it. You didn't learn how to breathe when life first knocked you down. You remembered you already could. You didn't create strength out of nothing when your world fell apart. You discovered a strength that was already alive in you, waiting for the moment it would be called forth. This is what resilience really is, not the invention of power, but the remembrance of it. The uncovering of what pain tries to make you forget, that you are more capable, more resourceful, more unbreakable than you believe. We live in a world that teaches us to measure resilience by appearances. Did you get back on your feet quickly? Did you smile through it? Did you look like you had it all together? But that's not resilience. Resilience is not about hiding the cracks, it's about honoring them. It's about allowing yourself to fall apart when you must, and then remembering, piece by piece, that you are more than the pieces. Every single one of you has already proven this. There are chapters in your story you didn't think you'd survive, nights you didn't think you'd make it through, losses you swore would swallow you whole, and yet here you are. You kept breathing when you thought you couldn't. You kept walking when your legs shook beneath you. That wasn't something you invented out of thin air. That was remembrance. That was life whispering, you still have more in you. Don't forget who you are. The irony is, we don't recognize our own resilience until we're forced to use it. Until life puts us in the fire, until everything we leaned on is stripped away. And then, in that vulnerable moment, something rises in us that we didn't know was there. Not because it just appeared, but because it had been with us all along. It's like the stars. You don't see them in daylight. They don't disappear. They're simply hidden by the light. But the moment darkness comes, there they are, unchanged, steady, shining. Your resilience is the same. You may not notice it when everything is easy, but when the darkness falls, it is revealed. Here's the beautiful part. Once you've remembered your resilience once, it becomes easier to remember it again. You carry that knowing forward. You no longer panic in the same way when life cracks beneath your feet, because you've been there before. You know now that you're stronger than you thought. That knowledge becomes your anchor. That memory becomes your proof. But there's another layer to this. Resilience isn't just about remembering your strength. It's about remembering your worth, because so often, failure and pain try to convince us that we're not worthy of rising, that because we fell, we must not deserve to get back up, that because we were broken, we must not be whole, and that is the cruelest lie setbacks tell us. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not disqualified by your pain. You are not less worthy because you've been knocked down. In fact, it is often the very falling, the very breaking, that reveals how worthy you've always been. That's resilience, not pretending you're untouched, but remembering you are still whole even in your brokenness. So when you think about resilience, don't imagine a warrior in perfect armor charging forward without flinching. Imagine instead someone who has scars, who has been knocked to the ground, who has cried, doubted, stumbled, and yet remembers, deep down, that they are still alive, still capable, still worthy of standing again. That's what resilience is, remembering your essence even when life tries to make you forget. So let me ask you, what have you forgotten about yourself? Have you forgotten how much you've already survived? Have you forgotten the nights you thought would break you, and yet you woke up anyway? Have you forgotten the strength that has already carried you this far? Resilience is not about creating something new in you. It's about waking up to what has always been there. Resilience is not the art of becoming stronger. It is the sacred act of remembering that you already are. Pain has a way of making us feel small. It corners us, presses in on us, and whispers lies, that we are powerless, that our suffering is meaningless, that our story ends here. But pain is not an ending. Pain is alchemy, and when you lean into it instead of running from it, something extraordinary begins to happen. Alchemy, in its simplest form, is the transformation of one thing into another, turning base metal into gold, taking what seems ordinary, even worthless, and transmuting it into something precious. Your pain has the same power. Because the truth is, what wounds you can also wake you. What breaks you can also build you. What hurts you can also hone you into someone you never imagined becoming. Think about the most powerful people you've ever admired. Not the ones who have had it easy, but the ones who have walked through the fire, the ones who turned loss into wisdom, who turned heartbreak into compassion, who turned obstacles into opportunities. They didn't escape pain. They transmuted it. They practiced the art of alchemy, and here's what's wild. You've already done this too. Every scar you carry tells a story, not just of survival, but of transformation. That rejection that once felt like the end of the world, it forced you to discover a strength you didn't know you had. That grief that hollowed you out, it gave you the capacity to understand others in a way you never could have before. That failure you swore defined you, it refined you instead. This is the alchemy of life. Pain doesn't just leave you different. It leaves you deeper, more aware, more awake, and that depth, that awareness becomes the foundation of your purpose. The world doesn't need more people pretending to be perfect. The world needs people who have bled, who have fallen, who have been broken, and yet choose to rise, because those are the voices that carry weight. Those are the stories that change lives. Those are the hearts that radiate light in dark places. But here's the key. You don't find purpose by denying your pain. You find it by embracing it, by holding it in your hands even when it burns and asking, what can this become? Because pain always wants to be transformed. It is never meant to sit stagnant inside you. It is meant to flow through you, to change you, and to ripple outward into the lives of others. Maybe your pain will become the book you write, the business you build, the art you create. Maybe it will become the compassion you offer to someone else who feels unseen. Maybe it will become the reason you finally take a risk, speak up, or change the world around you in ways you never would have dared otherwise. Pain is not meant to paralyze you. It is meant to propel you. And I'll tell you something. Sometimes the very thing you think disqualifies you is the thing that qualifies you most. That heartbreak, that failure, that loss. It doesn't make you less worthy of purpose. It makes you more equipped to live it. Because purpose isn't built in your highlight reel. Purpose is forged in your scars. It's no accident that some of the most meaningful contributions in history were born out of struggle. Movements were sparked by injustice. Breakthroughs were born from failure. Great works of art were birthed in heartbreak. Humanity moves forward because pain, when transformed, becomes fuel. It becomes vision. It becomes the fire that refuses to let us stay silent, small, or defeated. And so, the invitation is this. Don't run from your pain. Don't numb it, deny it, or bury it so deep it poisons you from the inside. Sit with it, listen to it, ask it what it's trying to shape in you, and then, little by little, turn it outward, transform it into love, into action, into purpose, because at the end of the day, pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. Pain is your sculptor. Pain is the raw material that, if you let it, can become the very gold of your life. That's alchemy. That's the miracle of being human. We can take what tried to destroy us and make it into something that saves us. Your pain was never meant to end you. It was meant to forge you into the purpose only you were born to carry. Life is not a straight line. It's not a simple march from point A to point B. It's a symphony, layered, complex, full of movements that rise and fall. And here's the thing about a symphony. When you're inside it, when you're sitting in the middle of the orchestra, you might only hear the instrument right in front of you, the strings, the brass, the percussion. Each note by itself might sound chaotic, even dissonant, but step back, listen from the balcony, and suddenly you realize it was all part of something much bigger, something breathtakingly beautiful. Perspective is the balcony view of your life. And when setbacks hit, when pain feels like noise that makes no sense, It's perspective that reminds you there's still a larger melody playing. Think about it. How many times have you gone through something that felt unbearable in the moment, only to look back later and realize it was shaping you, guiding you, setting you up for something you couldn't have seen at the time? The heartbreak that led you to the love you were truly meant for. The failure that opened the door to the career that actually fulfilled you. The closed door that rerouted you toward a path you never would have chosen but ended up needing more than anything. In the moment, all you heard was the discord, but with perspective, you see the harmony. This is why perspective is so powerful, because pain screams at us to zoom in, to focus only on the wound, the loss, the setback. It convinces us that this one note is the entire song, but life is bigger than any single moment. Perspective pulls us back and says, wait, don't judge the symphony by one note. Don't define your life by one chapter. Step back and see what's unfolding. I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself walking through a dense forest. The path twists and turns. Sometimes it feels like you're going in circles. Sometimes you can't see more than a few feet ahead, but then you find a clearing. And when you look back from that vantage point, suddenly the twists make sense. The turns weren't random. They were leading you somewhere. That's perspective. It doesn't erase the struggle of the forest, but it helps you understand why the path was the way it was. And here's the beautiful part. Perspective isn't just about looking back. It's about looking forward with faith. It's about believing that even when you can't yet see the harmony, it's there. That the symphony is still playing, that the forest still has a path. Perspective doesn't mean you'll always know the why in the moment, but it anchors you in the truth that there is a why, even if it's not yet revealed. This shift in perspective changes everything. Suddenly, setbacks don't feel like dead ends. They feel like detours. Delays don't feel like punishment. They feel like preparation. Pain doesn't feel meaningless. It feels like part of the score, part of the shaping, part of the design. When you adopt this lens, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you begin asking, what could this be teaching me? What could this be preparing me for? How might this fit into the larger symphony of my life? And those questions don't erase the pain, but they transform how you carry it. Let me tell you something. Some of the most breathtaking symphonies have movements of silence, long pauses where the orchestra doesn't play at all. Those pauses aren't mistakes. They aren't wasted space. They are essential. They give depth to the music. They create anticipation, reflection, beauty. In the same way, the pauses in your life, the waiting seasons, the moments where nothing seems to be moving, are not wasted. They are part of the music. They are shaping the song of your life in ways you may not understand now, but will one day. Perspective is about trusting that even when you can't yet hear the melody, it's still being composed. Trusting that your life is not random notes thrown together, but a symphony authored with intention. So the next time life feels unbearable, I want you to pause and breathe, step into the balcony view. Remind yourself, this is not the whole story. This is not the entire song. This is a single note in the larger symphony. And though it may sound harsh right now, one day you will hear how it belongs. Perspective doesn't erase the pain, but it places it in context, and context changes everything. When you step back far enough, every setback becomes part of the music. And you realize the symphony of your life was always beautiful, even in the dissonance. There's a moment after the storm when you stand at a crossroads. The pieces of what once was are scattered around you. The setback has done its work. It's knocked you down, shaken your sense of certainty, left you questioning. And in that moment, you face a choice. Not the kind of choice that feels dramatic or cinematic. Most of the time, it doesn't look like much at all. It looks like getting out of bed when everything in you wants to stay hidden under the covers. It looks like sending the email you're afraid to send. It looks like forgiving yourself for what you didn't know back then. Choice is the most powerful thing you own, not talent, not luck, not circumstance. Choice, because circumstances can break you, but choice, that belongs to you. Here's the secret most people forget. Setbacks don't define you, choices do. You don't always get to choose what happens to you, but you always get to choose how you respond. And it's in those responses, the small, quiet, daily decisions, that your comeback begins. Think about it. Every person who has ever turned a setback into a comeback didn't do it overnight. They did it through thousands of tiny choices. Choosing to stand up again, choosing to keep going, choosing to see possibility instead of despair, choosing to become someone new instead of clinging to who they used to be. It's easy to forget you have that power. Because pain is convincing, fear is persuasive, failure is loud. They all tell you the same story: you're stuck, you're powerless, you have no control. And in the middle of that noise, it's tempting to believe it. But let me tell you something. No matter what has happened to you, you are never powerless, because choice is always in your hands, even in the smallest of ways, even in the most broken of places. That's where transformation begins. Not in the giant leaps, but in the first small step you choose to take. You choose to shift your focus. You choose to try again. You choose to rewrite the story instead of letting it end in defeat. And here's the beauty of choice: it compounds. One decision leads to another and another until momentum builds. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. What once felt like ruin becomes the very soil of rebirth. Choice is also how you reclaim authorship of your story. Because the truth is, life will write chapters you never asked for. Pain will write sentences you never wanted to read. But you get to decide how the story unfolds. You get to pick up the pen and say, this is not where it ends. This is where it begins again. When you start to see your life this way, choice no longer feels small. It feels sacred. Every moment becomes a chance to step into who you were meant to be. Every decision becomes a brushstroke in the masterpiece of your comeback. And yes, it will take courage. Yes, it will take persistence. Yes, some days you will feel like you are crawling instead of running. But don't underestimate the power of those small steps, because one day you'll look back and realize they carried you into a life you couldn't have imagined from the place where you started. So let me ask you, what choice is waiting for you right now? The choice to forgive, the choice to let go, the choice to finally step toward the dream you've been afraid of, the choice to believe just for today that you are stronger than you think. Because in the end, that's what turns setbacks into comebacks. It's not luck, it's not magic, it's not some external rescue. It's you, choosing again and again not to give up, choosing to rise, choosing to live. The comeback doesn't happen when life gets easier. It happens the moment you choose to rise anyway.